Hello everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do a candle haul and first impressions review of 5 scents from Kringle Candle Company. This is part of their 14.5 ounce Kringle 2-wick 100% soy wax formulation. And when you're thinking of 14.5 ounce, of course, that's the same as Bath & Body Works that a lot of folks are familiar with, though in a taller 2-wick formula versus the squat 3-wick formula. Though Kringle does offer a soy blend wax formulation in very traditional 14.5 ounce 3-wick, looks like Bath & Body Works jars, whereas this is a 100% soy wax formulation, I believe. As long-term viewers of my channel know, I actually haven't purchased much from them in the past. I've done, I think, just one other order, 2 other reviews. They weren't really something that for many years was much on my radar, and I really wanted to give them a try. So you can check out this video here. Earlier this year, I did a Daylights order from their holiday sale, some holiday scents, and then I did a review on Thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, candle in their sort of 14.5 ounce 3-wick soy blend wax formulation. From that experience, I was like, okay, you know what? I really should give them more of a try. And I've been busy with lots of other candle companies lately, but there was an amazing sale in June, kind of around the time of the Bath & Body Works semi-annual sale. Kringle did a flash sale, 60% off, I believe it was, on these medium jars here. And that made them $10.20 each. With shipping, I paid, what, $58 for 5 14.5 ounce candles that their typical retail is $25.50. So really wanted to give them a shot. And so I did a mixture of fragrances, some that I haven't heard much of, and 1 or 2 that I've heard lots of reviewers have talked about. Dig right in. Again, this is really a haul and first impressions review. I did burn 1 of these just because I wanted to see what it smelled like and kind of get a firsthand experience of what the performance is like with this wax formulation, form factor that Kringle offers. So I will be able to talk a little bit about that as well. So digging right in, first we've got Fruit and Flakes. This, of course, was from the spring release this year. The notes on this one: banana, strawberry, red berry, baked pastry, oats, cinnamon, clove, vanilla, and cooked sugar. So not sure if that's like a burnt sugar, like on a creme brulee, or cooked sugar, kind of like almost caramelized. This is interesting. This is, I am happy that it's not sort of like your Fruit Loops, like fruit cereal in that sense, because been there, done that. I didn't really want a novelty candle. I wanted a scent that was like maybe a little creamy, a little fruity, a little, in this sense, the baked pastry or sort of like either oats or corn or something. It just is like more of a layering candle, almost going into fall potentially versus springtime. And this is about what I expected. It's nice. This one I'll really have to see what it's like burning. As you can see, of course, that is very obviously a soy wax because it's kind of that, it's mottled, it's kind of, very, very opaque. What I will say with maybe any, Kringle fans or folks who have purchased a lot of Kringles in the past, I'd love to hear from you. On most of these candles, it almost seems like the first centimeter is really kind of a pure white wax, and then everything below that looks a little bit more creamy. And I don't know if that's just something where sometimes some candle companies kind of almost use heat guns after a pour cures because it gets, it gets a little like concave kind of divot in it or something, and just to even out the top of the candle, they do that. So I don't know if that's what happens here. If you're familiar with this and know why, would love to hear. I like it. Definitely get, I'd say fruity. I wouldn't call out specifically berry. I will say this, I enjoy these candles. And I think Kringle's being really creative, and they're being very transparent with their customers and really building those relationships with their customers, which is what I love to see with any brand, whether it's, mass market Bath & Body Works or mid-market or luxury home fragrance. The one thing that I wish they would do better on is their top, middle, bottom notes. To me, sometimes feel a little messy. I appreciate that they're giving top, middle, bottom notes because that does lean more towards sort of your fine fragrance, really building a scent from, bottom up, top down. But sometimes it feels like there are notes thrown in here that I almost can't imagine are in here or make sense in here. Though, of course, that it does happen. Like there are scents where you don't always get the initial full smell if it's just a little bit of it or something. So I understand that. But sometimes they just give notes that are very, very generic, like red berry. You've already said banana, you said strawberry. What is red berry? Is it a raspberry? Is it a currant? What does red berry mean? Sometimes, this is not a good example because this one mostly makes sense, baked pastry, oats, cinnamon. Sometimes it just says floral or green. And to me, that's more so, okay, that's the fragrance category. That's not the note. Like, let's nest down into, all right, it's floral. What is the floral? Or it's green. okay, or it's herbal, tell me what it means. So I really would, as if they were listening, if I were to give them feedback, get specific and share with us exactly what your notes are, or just leave that out. Give us 2 or 3 top, middle, bottoms, but be specific in what we're smelling. That's what I like to, as you know, as someone who loves to get in depth with analyzing and assessing blends, I really want to know the more knowledge or information, the better. But it is somewhat cereal-like. I mean, there certainly is something milky. They're saying vanilla. This could be like a sweetened oat milk with a little bit of that berry. Banana, I think, might be in there, but what I like about it is it doesn't come off as banana, only because I think our noses are trained to think of banana as being in wax, your runt candy artificial banana, which find me a Bath & Body Works candle that's banana that doesn't smell like artificial runts. There's been 1 or 2 that I can even think of out of the many they've had. But this really is kind of like a banana in milk. Like as a kid, sometimes I would have like sliced bananas with a little bit of sugar in milk, and aside from like cereal sometimes. And there is, I think that is the banana I'm smelling here. I think it's kind of like an authentic, not overpowering banana note in there with a bit of a creaminess. I don't get clove. I don't get really spices. Certainly kind of gourmand, like maybe a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of certainly oats, and maybe some of that sugar, the vanilla. Yep. Clove. If there's like a baking spice in there, it's much softer than clove in my mind. But overall, a nice scent. I think it would be really great for layering. So moving on to the next. This one, I believe this is like one of the, you ask any sort of Kringle fan and they're usually gonna say Sicilian Orange, Sicilian Orange, Sicilian Orange, go for it. So I was like, okay, we gotta try it. Oranges don't always show up well. Those citruses everywhere in fragrance, both, fine parfums and home fragrance. You don't often get an orange that is really well executed. You got tons of lemons, tons of limes, lots of bergamot, spice citrus, unwashed citrus, across the board, a million, grapefruits and pomelos and all that, yuzu. But orange itself is sometimes tricky to land for some reason, in my opinion. The notes on this one, Italian citrus accord, which again, citrus accord, okay, that means an accord means it's a blend of multiple notes to give something that is usually typically more conceptual. Don't know why they need to go conceptual with citrus when they can use actual citrus notes in it versus, usually an accord is going to be ocean waves or driftwood or even something as silly as sunlight or cheesecake that there's no essential oil. There's plenty of essential oils for citrus. Not sure why it has to be an accord, though they do mention Sicilian orange peel, okay? Wild herbs, lavender, mid notes, and then white cedar and western pine as bottom notes, base notes. Again, wild herbs, give me more than that. I can try to figure it out with my nose, but just don't tell me there's wild herbs in there. Tell me, what are the herbs? Is it something just green? Is it just like a galbanum or something that's used in fine fragrance to impart a green herbal note? Or is it rosemary or thyme or basil or sage or whatever? Tell me, I wanna know what it is. All that said, this is a pretty orange, and I do see why some people could almost lean this to be a bit sort of holiday, because you do have that cedar and pine in there, which is always gonna immediately pull the mind, typically with scent memory at least for us, into holiday. And the orange is very fresh. It's almost a bit like a candied orange to me. Certainly the peel, not like a juicy, certainly by no means tropical or even fruity in the typical fragrance family of what you think of like a fruity candle to be. And yeah, I would agree there is some herbal in there. I certainly get probably that floral, a little bit of an astringent floral. It's not really your soft, powdery, sweet lavender. It is a little bit more astringent, which really plays off well with the orange peel. And certainly the cedar, I get almost more than the cedar, I really do get that traditional pine. So not so much a balsam, not, Douglas fir, but a true traditional pine. Just that green, almost like, I don't like pine sol. This doesn't smell like pine sol, but that very straightforward traditional pine. I could see this almost, and I don't, from all of the reviews, no one has said this comes off as cleaner, but that's always a risk with orange and with pine. Those, so many cleaners have those scents, and both those can lean towards that sort of family sometimes. I don't think this will do that, but I do get a solid kind of astringent, a bit of astringent from the lavender, a bit of astringency from the orange peel, and almost a bit of astringency from that pine, but I don't mind it because it doesn't overwhelm. It's a really well-balanced scent. Really nice, really unique. Not what I would have expected had I not looked at the notes in orange, because I would have thought more of a straight orange, but I really like this interpretation, almost conceptualized version of orange. Then we'll go to, let's bounce over to Herbal Tea. This was also from the spring collection this year. Notes on this one, tea and lemon. Tell me what kind of tea. It says herbal tea in the name. Is it rooibos? Is it just an herbal tea, like, you know, something with hibiscus in it, or botanicals that are actually not even tea leaves? Is it a green tea, a white tea, a black tea, you know, Darjeeling? Tell me what kind of tea it is besides just saying herbal tea. But tea, lemon, mid of jasmine and verbena, base of musk and sage. Would love to know a little bit more about the musk. You wouldn't expect much of a musk in an herbal tea when it's going to be, in this sense, based on the label at least, a true like beverage, drinkable, versus you can have tea blends. Think of green tea, white pear from Slacken back in the day. Think of Earl Grey bitters from Apothecary. Conceptual teas that are not actually like a mug of tea. This, based on, you know, the image, I'm thinking it's a sort of drinkable cup of tea. So based on that, I'd love to understand why there's musk in there in that sense, and or exactly what kind of tea it is. The jasmine, the verbena, a little bit of floral in there, that makes sense. There's plenty of herbal teas that have jasmine in them or other florals. That's great. Same with verbena. Verbena does lean relaxing and green, and it can be the verbena leaves or flowers. Like, I'm here for that. All that to say, this is really, really similar to Bath & Body Works' London Calling Tea and Lemon, which was 2012, was part of a Destinations collection, and really is kind of like your, for lack of a better term, like your grocery store, like Lipton Brisk iced tea, like your canned iced tea, like I had as a kid at summer camp from the like vending machine. And I like the scent, but it's not what I would think with herbal tea, and not what I would think based on the label or the notes, quite frankly, because I don't think I get jasmine in there. Verbena, sure, maybe some verbena. If it's a musk, it's a sweet, sweet musk. I don't think I get sage. It's more so black tea, fresh lemon juice. Could almost be something a little bit more citrus, like maybe even some yuzu in there or something. Maybe like kaffir lime leaves or something else to add a little bit of green to it. And a heavy, heavy, heavy hit of sugar. Or maybe even honey, but like a lot of honey, like clover blossom honey. To me, these notes, if I was picking them out on a blind sniff, it would be black tea, lemon juice, lemon peel, like lime leaves, and like clover blossom honey, and maybe even with crushed ice or something like that. Because it almost leans to me like that much lemon in tea, for me personally at least, is more like an iced tea. All that to say, nice, really nice, not a must have. I think I could have done a better job naming it than herbal tea. And I think that the notes don't feel like a perfect match for me. But still, when you're looking for that sort of sun tea, sweetened lemon sun tea, completely, this is it. Then moving to one that I was really intrigued about is Anjou Allspice. Notes on this one, top pear, juniper, bit of a surprise but interesting, mid pear, okay, gin accord, interesting, I'll get to that in a second, base vanilla, cream, nutmeg, allspice. All right, vanilla, cream, nutmeg, allspice, that tracks, that makes sense. Here's where, again, maybe this is like fragrance nerd speaking right here, but I find it ridiculous that the top and mid notes are basically the same. And here's why. Pear and pear. All right, if you're going to tell me there's Anjou pears in here and the Bartlett pears, okay, I could buy it, but the name is Anjou, and you're not telling what type of pear in the notes, so that's useless. And gin accord, the gin that most of us are used to is going to be sort of your London dry style gin that is going to be very heavily, juniper is your primary, you know, flavor and fragrance in many, many gins. But there are gins that really have little to no juniper in them, more botanical gins that have sort of rose petals and cucumber, or, you know, there's thousands of gins. I'm a big fan of gin, but they don't all have juniper. So to say gin accord is almost like saying soda accord. Okay, well, do you mean like a cola or like an orange soda or a grape soda? Or gin is just such a catch-all term. It's a base spirit with any mixture of botanicals and herbs and spices added to it. It really is like choose your own adventure when it comes to that. So to say gin accord, I believe here is likely referring to the juniper. And if that's the case, the top notes are pear, juniper, the mid notes are pear, gin accord, which is juniper in this sense, most likely. So again, that I hate to waste time on the video talking about it, but that's kind of thing that for me, if you're gonna take the effort to put these nice images together that tell us top, mid, and base notes versus just, Bath & Body Works giving 3 notes on the bottom of a candle, or Homeworks, quite frankly, giving 4 notes on the bottom of a candle these days, do it right. If you're gonna go for it, like, execute it well, and I think that their listing of top, mid, and, as they say, base notes, to me, is just executed messy, which that's the kind of thing that just holds me back from being like, oh, this is like a brand to go for, because as someone who's really, maybe some would say obsessively invested in how fragrances are made and what they're built and what the notes are, and figuring out what I like and what I don't like, or what I want more of, and just trying to like build a scent in my brain and in my scent memory, I want them to do better. I like the idea of this, but they need to do better with how they execute it, or don't do it, in my opinion. Smelling this though, that's what we're all here for. It's beautiful. It is very much a traditional pear fragrance, a fresh pear. It's funny, it doesn't lean like a baked pear. Juniper, there's I suppose a bit of freshness, though I don't think I would have picked juniper or gin accord, certainly, out on my own, just by sniffing it. Certainly some vanilla, just some like fresh, pure vanilla. And there's a creaminess. I wouldn't call out specifically what baked spices. It's more like your warm kitchen spices, baking spices. Soft, maybe a little bit of kind of cinnamon. It's interesting, the label here has star anise and cinnamon sticks, though in the notes they just mentioned nutmeg and allspice, and the name is allspice. No, I don't think I get star anise, but again, I think it's a mixture of a couple of spices. None of them really stand out on their own. And the pear is it is fresh, it's not a baked pear, which I just find that to be unique, because typically pears and baking spices, it's gonna be a baked pear, it's gonna be a gourmand. And this is bordering between a fresh and a gourmand, but very, very authentic pear. Like you just bit into it or slice into it. So you can almost feel sort of that grainy texture that pears have. Really, really pretty blend there. I'm happy I kind of took a risk on that one. Then going to our last one, and this one I was very excited about. Not many reviews on the website for it, and that is black pepper and gin. Love black pepper in home fragrance. Love gin. Haven't smelled gin particularly in home fragrance before, but love juniper, coriander, cardamom, lavender, all the things that are typically or frequently found in gin. So I was all about trying this. This is one I burned. As you can see in the video here, great pool, went for maybe 2 or 3 hours, got a healthy deep pool. Flames got a little bit wild, got some borderline, got some mushroom tops on top, which is not the experience I had with their soy blend and their 3-wick candles. The flames stayed really balanced in that one, which I was hoping to see in this, but they got a little bit wicked and dancing in this, but I'd rather have that than, puny wicks or drowning flames, so I'll take it. But at the same time, at least for that first burn, no soot in the candle, as you can see here. Again, it's kind of that mottled wax as it cooled down, but just very heavy on the oils there. Notes in this one, top of bergamot, fir balsam, oak, and black pepper. Mid, pine needles, juniper berry, and gin accord. Base, moss, cedarwood, and musk. Okay, I'm not gonna keep picking on the notes. I just have to be okay with it, I guess. But the label shows rosemary and lemon, which would work in gin. And like maybe even a little black peppercorns perhaps in there, or maybe juniper berries, not sure. But would love to see lemon and rosemary in the fragrance and in the notes, since that's on the label. I'm a stickler, guys. I mean, you've seen me talk through Homeworks or Bath & Body Works or other brands that have images or imagery on their candles. And it's like, if what I'm seeing doesn't match or doesn't even exist in the notes, well, then you chose the wrong photo just because it looked pretty. Because I don't think there's lemon, probably, or rosemary in here, which I think would be really nice with some black pepper and gin. That's fine. What do I get? Heavy, heavy, heavy on the fir balsam, which is, I'm here for balsams and junipers and even pines and cedarwoods outside of holiday. Like, I really appreciate that because I love them. They're strong, they're intense, they're refreshing, they're uplifting. They almost lean aromatherapeutic in my mind. Have that sparkling bergamot, definitely can get that. The black pepper, I wish it was kicked up a notch. There's just a little bit, it's almost like I want freshly cracked black pepper. This is like, those old McCormick metal containers that are probably in your grandma's cabinet with some black pepper that she's been shaking out of there for 30 years or whatever, that's like was ground up in the factory 35 years ago. That's the black pepper I'm getting. I want that black pepper to be really kicked up a notch, to almost like be biting when you sniff it. Definitely get a heavy hit of musk in this, in that bottom. Oak, not so much, which I am happy I'm not getting a lot of oak in there. And I find it surprising that it's listed in the top, because typically oak is going to be a base note. But certainly that sparkling, really strong green, borderline limey bergamot. Heavy on the fir balsam, but not like that refreshing whoosh of balsam when you think of, sometimes like your white birches or your fresh balsams. It's more so a resinous balsam. It's not a like eucalyptus style cooling balsam. It's more resinous, which works as well. Mid pine needles, certainly get a little of that pine in there, not as much of the pine as I was getting in, say, the Sicilian Orange. Definitely juniper berry for sure, which that I would expect there to be a fair hit of that since this is a gin candle. And the base, the moss, cedarwood, and musk. I do think there's some musk because there's a bit of like a little bit of a powderiness to it, where almost like a, a mature parfum kind of deal that I could probably do without. This is not a super fresh, refreshing candle, the way that if it was rosemary, lemon, juniper, bergamot, black pepper, and then maybe one other thing thrown in there, that could be really invigorating, refreshing. This is not. It's definitely weighed down by, maybe it's the oak, but certainly the musk and perhaps the cedarwood. And that was my one critique, I think, of when I did the Daylights review for Kringle, is that there were some scents that were just a little, take one or two things out. Don't overwhelm it, don't overdo it. You don't necessarily need cedarwood and musk and your moss and your oak on top of your fir balsam and your pine needles. It just, sometimes they're hitting too many of the same like channel that it's just makes it a little bit imbalanced. So I'd like to see this without probably the moss and the cedarwood, and maybe not even the musk, because you've got the heavy hitters in your bergamot, your balsam, your black pepper, your juniper, for sure. So take those and add the freshness of the herbal rosemary, add the freshness of that zing of lemon. Lemon and pepper, hello, perfect combination. But that, it doesn't exist in here. The bergamot is there, but that leans much more sparkling, sort of fine fragrance, less fresh, less acidic, less tangy, less peppy. So all to say, I don't think it's properly named. So it didn't fit the bill for me for what I wanted it to be. It's just more of a conceptual, almost outdoor candle versus black pepper, gin, rosemary, lemon, as you see here. And it gets a little bit powdery with either that floral or the musk, which Kringle has a lot of musk and a lot of candles that don't need musk. Like, get rid of them. To me, that is what, again, I, as if I'm like some consultant for them, that's not the case. But that is the one thing that does sometimes keep me from digging into, because, I will go all in. If I love a brand and love candles, I'm gonna go for it. That keeps me, like holds me back a bit from them is there's musk in so many, like even foodie scents that, and I'm all for an elevated whatever you're doing. Like add some wild things into it, some unexpected things if it makes sense, but it almost just feels like, what am I missing? Throw in some musk. Oh, what is that? Oh, the margarita? Oh, throw in some musk. Oh, what is, no, like it doesn't need it, because that is what kind of pulls it back. Like Kringle, the aesthetic is fairly contemporary, at least, a bit of kind of the throwback to the old Yankee with some of the font here on the bottom, but the vessel, certainly the wild reserve lines they're going after with cannabis and the French fries and things, they're going for like a more contemporary home fragrance collection. But when you throw musk in so many things and have just some weird ones that just don't make sense, that's what kind of pulls you back to like old school Yankee of very, very, very traditional versus more contemporary. Not that there's anything wrong with that, they should have blends like that, but I don't need musk in my black pepper and gin. So it's weird, because I burned it and I liked it, but assessing it, I'm like, that's a little bit of a miss for me, I think. So that's my supposed first impressions, but pretty in-depth, I suppose, haul and review. But fragrance fans, y'all are here to do the same sniffing and whiffing as I am. So let me know what you think. Agree, disagree. I'm here for the healthy debate. Everyone's nose is different and everyone's interests and likes are different. All that to say, end of day, I'm still impressed with Kringle. I'm gonna continue giving them a shot and trying other blends. Let me know what you think of these ones, of others, and Kringle in general. And until next time, take care.